When we separate our minds from our bodies and divide our thoughts from our emotions, we can reason deductively and solve logical problems, but we lose our ability to register our experience and therefore to think inductively, to make decisions and navigate the human social world. These changes in our understanding of who we are as humans were sparked initially by listening to women. In my lecture tonight, I will consider the implications of this paradigm shift for thinking about ethics and moral development. Rather than asking, how do we gain the capacity to care? How do we learn to take the point of view of the other and overcome self-interest? We are prompted to ask, how do we lose the capacity to care? What inhibits our ability to empathize with others and pick up the emotional climate around us? How do we fail to recognize the difference between being in and out of touch? And most painfully, how do we lose the capacity to love? My observation of something akin to moral injury began with the studies of girls' development that followed in a different voice. The research highlighted an intersection in girls' lives at adolescence where an inner compass pointed in one direction and the highway signs in another. Girls had to throw away or ignore their compasses in order to follow the prescribed route with conviction. In their reluctance to do so, my research team and I saw a resistance that was associated with psychological resiliency and strength. The tension between psychological development and cultural adaptation became manifest as a crisis of connection, where having a voice, meaning being able to say what one is thinking and feeling, came into conflict with having, quote, relationships. We live in bodies and in cultures, but we also have a psyche, a voice, and a capacity for resistance. The psyche's responses to moral injury across time and cultures is violent rage and social withdrawal, and also, as Shea describes, going berserk, going crazy, because something happened that psychologically didn't make sense. The internalization of the gender binary and hierarchy marks the psyche's induction into a patriarchal order. Whenever you hear a gender binary, being a man means not being a woman or like a woman, and vice versa, and encounter a gender hierarchy that privileges the masculine, reason and self, over the feminine, emotions and relationships, you know you are in patriarchy, whatever it may be called. It is difficult in this postmodern age to speak of an honest voice or true face. Respect for cultural differences has similarly complicated the search for moral truth. Can we uphold the value of individual liberty and religious freedom while maintaining a commitment to human rights? In these discussions, the situation of women repeatedly comes to the fore. Can a democratic society sanction or turn a blind eye to the subordination of women in patriarchy? With the paradigm shift in the human sciences, we can recognize the extent to which we have mistaken patriarchy for nature and fail to see what the Arab Spring demonstrated so viscerally. The desire to have a voice and to live democratically is a human desire. Care is a feminist, not a feminine issue. Ethic. And feminism, guided by the ethic of care, is arguably the most radical in the sense of going to the roots liberation movement in human history. Released from the gender binary and hierarchy, feminism is not a woman's issue or a battle between women and men. It is the movement to free democracy from patriarchy. The ethic of care guides us in acting carefully in the human world and underscores the costs of carelessness, of not paying attention, not listening, being absent rather than present, not responding with integrity and respect. I conclude with Jonathan Shea, quote, "If we want to live among equals with strength and candor, Among people with, as Euripides says, free and generous eyes, the understanding of trauma can form a solid basis for a science of human rights. As Shea says, the vision of a good life for a human being is an ethical choice and cannot be coerced. It can only be called forth by persuasion, education, and welcoming appeal. Thank you very much.